Hello, my name is Drew Doherty. I am a member of Group G, which includes Anne Motogawa, Anna Hartzog, and Emily Doust. Our proposal is all about mental health and working from home. We would like to look at the effects on employee mental health from voluntary and involuntary work from home perspectives. We truly believe that when you look at the literature, there's a lot of information about voluntary work from home, but not a lot about involuntary. What does it do to people? What's that mental health doing? And especially right now in the COVID-19 pandemic, this completely unprecedented time in our nation, our world's history, how does that change things? We'd really like to take a look at that. One quote that we really loved that kind of was a big catalyst for this project is from the Department of Health and Human Services. It says, mental health aspects can have a direct impact on work because they determine how individuals manage stress, make decisions, and relate to others. Hopefully we can answer a few of those questions and get this proposal and this project on the road. So, without further ado, let's introduce it. So this is all about voluntary versus involuntary work from home. And now, while there are both positive and negative aspects to work from home, the positive ones have been much more well documented in the current literature. Little is known about the recent phenomenon, especially with COVID-19 and the effects it might have on employee mental health. If we look at existing literature, we can see that there are experiences of flexibility, there's autonomy, there's less driving, and less distractions. I know for me personally, having that, distracting environment at the office can really be frustrating. You've got Sally sitting behind you chewing on salad, and for some reason her mouth is open and you can't concentrate literally every day. Being at home, having that, the only distraction I really have are my cats, and most of the time they sleep or they chase each other. So not too big a deal. And so there's a lot of benefits to working from home. However, there were little hints in our literature of drawbacks, and that's really what we're targeting here. So what are those drawbacks? Well, we do believe that we're going to see increase in work-family conflicts, as well as isolation and increased exhaustion and burnout from employees. Moving on, what exactly is our proposal? So, the purpose of our study is to examine the reported differences between involuntary work from home compared to voluntary work from home in regard to mental health. Identifying the differences between these two types of work from home and the implications for mental health can be valuable information for organizational development going forward. In addition to helping fill the literature gap that exists, the results of this study can prove useful for developing techniques of adapting to involuntary work from home and preventing mental health consequences. So then, what's the problem? If employees feel isolated at home and not properly supported by their organizations, involuntary work from home may be negatively affecting employee mental health, thus resulting in decreased work performance. If the documented challenges of work from home, such as isolation, work-family conflict, increasing exhaustion leading to burnout, if they're exacerbated by involuntary working from home, organizations will need to create policies to help mitigate these issues and take steps to further ensure that mental health of their employees is prioritized. So that brings us to our research questions. What are we targeting? What is the literature that we're looking for? What questions do we want answered? We have 3. The first is, does involuntary work from home cause employees to feel isolated from their workplace and team? Second, does involuntary work from home cause more strain on household relationships than voluntary work from home? And lastly, does involuntary work from home lead to higher rates of employee burnout? Now, the significance of our proposal is this. We're hoping to gain clarity on the subject and that it will hold significance for organizations, employers, and employees. Taking a step forward, let's take a look at what current literature looks like in the realm of working from home and mental health. Right now, it's mostly benefits. There's that positive correlation between working from home and reduced turnover and increased job satisfaction. Being allowed to work remotely, have that flexible schedule, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You don't have someone over your shoulder all the time worrying about what you're doing 24/7, 8 hours. But the problem is that all of these studies were conducted before 2020, before the COVID-19 pandemic. After the pandemic happened, it caused companies to enforce mandatory work from homes for their employees. So what does the current literature look like? What are we hoping to find here? So all studies that have been done on voluntary work from home arrangements. However, preliminary studies are showing that employees working under forced or mandatory work from home arrangements are having a very different experience. Mandatory work from home employees are experiencing situations that may, in fact, impact their mental health. For a number of reasons, we believe that a lot of companies are not going to return workers to an office environment for quite some time, or at least not at the level they were before. So further studies are needed to not only validate the results from these preliminary studies, but also to determine if these effects on employee mental health were solely from forced working from home, or if the pandemic had some significant influencing factor. We'd really like to take a look at this, and we're hoping that our research questions and the literature that we're going to review is going to answer a lot of those questions. So, how else are we going to try and answer these questions? It's a good question, right? We want to look at literature, but we also want to do our own research. We want to really tackle this and get answers to our questions. So we're going to do electronic surveys to service industry workers. Our plan is to survey 500 workers from service industries, 250 from volunteer work from home, and 250 from forced or mandatory work from home. And we want to learn more about the stress and mental health impacts between mandatory and voluntary work from home environments. The survey is going to consist of questions designed to assess employees' feelings of isolation while working at home, the strain that work from home is placing on family relationships, and whether these factors are contributing to feelings of employee burnout. We're also going to be collecting data to measure the boundary skills in a work from home environment and whether they have the appropriate space and freedom from distractions, and how their employers are supporting them working from home. All this data is going to be analyzed by demographic and content questions to determine whether any specific demographic assets or aspects are creating that variable that could give us the answer that we're looking for. So major topical categories designed to gather data on the difference in how voluntary and mandatory work from home employees view their experience and that impact that it has on their mental health. So, what are we hoping to find? Well, based on our research questions, it's probably pretty obvious, but I'd really like to go over that really quick. What are we hoping to find? So first off, based on our current research, we believe that we're gonna come to some answers. First, we believe that when employees that are used to large offices or a lot of social interactions with coworkers are suddenly shifted to work from home, it's going to cause them to struggle with social isolation. We think we're going to see an increase in reports of isolation, loneliness among involuntary work from home employees. I know for me personally, when I first got told I was going to work from home, I was like, amazing. I get to work from home, I don't have to drive, I don't have to spend any money on gas. And then I started to kind of miss those like little moments of a break almost, not quite, but go walk over to another cubicle and go talk to someone and interact with them, or I'm gonna go grab some water in the cafeteria, and you get to bump into someone you don't talk to that often and kind of make those connections. I started to miss those, and it started to feel like I was kind of in my own little island, my own little bubble, and I didn't really feel as connected to the organization. And so we're feeling that we're going to get a lot of that as we start to target some of those involuntary work from home, especially for those that are used to that, a lot of company and social interaction. Second, we believe that we're going to see an increased strain on household relationships. Now, in one of the studies that we found, Beland et al. In 2020 stated a lack of attachment to other individuals outside the family, and thus an increase in social isolation, induces the possibility of spousal violence. Specifically, involuntary work from home may increase the likelihood of physical isolation and reduce societal shields from domestic violence. All right, so this conclusion is very narrowly focused on one subject within the whole realm of involuntary work from home, but we believe that by conducting studies with the previously reported data as a starting point, our findings will show increased instances of stress, violence, and strife from within families. And lastly, our research leads us to believe that there may be mixed results in the effects of work from home on employee burnout. We're anticipating that the results of employee burnout levels are going to really vary based on how much involvement their companies and their organizations are really putting forth to make that shift more manageable. If companies are providing the necessary resources to their workforce, for instance, if your office has, regular birthday parties or recognition ceremonies or something like that, is the organization adapting to make sure that still happens? Are they holding Zoom conferences and bringing everyone in and everyone's webcam is on and everyone's talking and gabbing about, and then they're like, hey, from working from home, you did this much or you recruited this many people. Is that happening? Are they making an effort to really make sure that the office stays connected while everyone's kind of isolated? Or are they not? So when we do these studies, it's going to be very interesting to look at the data and go, all right, so we're seeing that there's some isolation issues, we're seeing there's some burnout issues. What is your organization doing? Are they doing anything to help? And then if we're seeing that people aren't burning out, what is your organization doing? How are they helping out? And we can look at the differences in the two sets of data and ask those kind of questions, those follow-up questions, to get answers and get more specific answers into what's going on and how can we maybe prevent this going forward? What can we present to make organizations kind of realize the development that needs to happen in order to make this more successful if this is to happen again, or if working from home is going to continue for their organization. So in conclusion, our hope is that we can close the gap in knowledge that exists due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the last year, many organizations have had to switch to remote work rather than be in office buildings. And while there are a lot of positive studies about the benefits of work from home, we believe that our research into this gap will provide us with more information in regards to involuntary work from home and its effects on employees and their mental health. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our proposal. We hope that it was enlightening, that it was thought-provoking, and at least mildly entertaining. At least I hope so. So thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.